Hello and welcome to the Gonzales Mitchell Show. I'm Clay Mitchell.
And I'm Patrick Gonzales.
The Patrick, I've been off the grid. I've been away. I've been traveling for the past 2.5 weeks. It was ignorance is bliss, my friend. I didn't have any problems. I wasn't concerned about anything. Had a great trip. I'll come back and I need to be caught up on things. What's the president been doing?
Yeah.
What's Congress been doing?
What's
I'm at the
going
state.
on? What's going on?
That's right.
Too
Let's
many
go.
of my brothers. Okay. Yeah, I heard you were out I heard you were out traveling the Himalayas. So did you run into the Yeti by any chance?
I did.
Let me
I
tell you
brought
what's
him
been
home.
going on.
I brought him home. He's growing a fat more, in fact.
Yeah, no, I hear you. So,
What's going on, dude?
well, anyway, for the last 6 weeks with this new administration, things have been happening at a breakneck speed. You just get caught up with one thing, and all of a sudden you're in another part of the world. We're getting ready to recapture the Panama Canal, and I'm all signed up and ready to go on that mission. And then I get a phone call saying I got to go to Greenland and take that over. So
What?
I don't know. At my age, I don't have time or energy for all this work. But
Well, my friend,
no,
I'm,
you
I'm on the
got back
draft
in
board.
time for.
I'm on the draft board for real. I got you covered, brother.
Okay, well,
You're whatever
okay,
the
I'm
lowest ranking
4F.
is.
Just remember
Yeah,
that.
4F because of your alleged
Yes,
age.
yeah, well, alleged, but my psychological problems are the number one thing that keep me out of the military.
I got you.
But you got back last night in time for the president's speech,
I did.
and it was a lollapalooza. I mean, it was typical Donald Trump touting his successes, trying to make the sale and the pitch because at his soul, that's what he is a salesman. And yeah, no, I thought, what did you think of the speech last night, coming at it from a perspective of kind of being off the grid for 2 weeks?
Well, the one thing I now know what I'm going to get you for Christmas. It's one of those Al Green canes that he pointed at the president and at the Republicans. I think
Let's
you'd look
stay
spiffy with one of those,
together,
my friend.
loving you, weather.
I
I
thought,
loved Al Green. I was in
yeah,
11th grade, and he came out on the radio. I'm driving with my AM on, and let's
yeah,
stay together. And oh my God,
yeah.
what a voice! You
WCAO
know
and
what he was singing last
WYRE.
night? Yep, those were it. There is no mandate. I don't remember that song from my youth, but that was what Al Green was singing last night.
Great. I thought, like you said, it was typical Trump. It was a presentation. It was a show. He hit all the strong points that he should have hit. He talked about everything. I mean, that was gosh, what was it? Almost 2 hours long. That was a long speech, and I don't know. I think it represented the political divide that's in the country right now. Democrats sitting on their hands, and while they have the right to protest and all that, there was a few times where I think they could have stood up and cheered, especially for some of those folks in the gallery. But that's just me. Nobody asked me.
That,
But
yeah, no, and I heard it broke the record. Willie Clinton did an hour and 50 and 30 years ago, and Trump last night I think almost hit 2 hours. So he broke
yeah,
that record. That little 13-year-old or DJ who's
oh
wanted to
yeah,
be a cop. Oh my God, that warmed my heart. And when what's his name from the Secret Service came out
yeah.
and said, "You are now an official member of the Secret Service." I have never felt safer for this country. And I am totally serious. I
What
just love that.
what a story.
And what a story. And I guess, you know, it just reminded me that this, I mean, the Democrats, they haven't changed a whit since before the election. And mean, come on, at some point, it's got to sink in. They have been acting like my 8 and 10-year-old grandchildren. And eventually, that's just grow up. And I'm not sure they are capable of doing that, Clay. I'm really not.
I think in their defense, one thing that's lacking is there's no head of the Democratic Party right now. Uh, Before, it was Barack Obama, throughout the years, and then it was before that Bill Clinton. Uh, there's just no one to sort of have the center of gravity of the party right now. It's in disarray. I think in the next 2 years, especially as we get into the midterms, someone will emerge. I don't know who that is, but that's really what's needed to get the party back center left and towards winning elections again. Until then, unless they do that,
But
it's going to look like it did last night,
but
which was a shame.
but Clay, how does a leader emerge in a group that has sort of a mob mentality? It's like you think in 1650 or whenever it was when the residents of Salem were screaming to burn the witches, that someone could have stepped forward and become the leader of that group. And that really is what the Democratic Party has become. It is a party. And on a personal level, this is what I don't understand. You know darn well I've struggled my whole life just kind of keeping balance and stuff. And one of the things I've had to do is, get up every day and think positive. The Democratic Party for the last decade, and really probably a little before, but since the emergence of Trump, is the most negative group I have ever seen in my life. And, they talk about compassion and helping others, but their actions accomplish, from my personal experience, the exact opposite. They are helping no one. And
There's
I don't know.
Go ahead.
No, and I was just going to close by saying, and Trump is not, totally blameless either. I mean, when he called Hiawatha Pocahontas last night, that was sort of gratuitous.
Yeah,
So he didn't need
yeah,
to do that. And but she loved it. I mean, they flipped right to the camera, and she loves the publicity. And it's the old line. I don't care, what you say about me. Just spell your name right. I just
yeah.
I don't get that mentality. But
I've noticed a current of people who used to be advisors to the Clintons and to the Obamas that are out in the media, and I flip every now and then to CNN and MSNBC, and they're saying, "Folks, you got to come to the middle. You got to stop all the fringe nonsense if we want to win elections again." And I think, based on their years and decades of experience winning elections against Republicans, that their advice needs to be heeded. But I don't know that you can talk to this younger crowd. They want instant gratification, and they want all, the
yep,
magical things that they can think of to come into reality, when either there's not an appetite for it in mainstream America, or there's not the money for it in the treasury. But I think
yeah,
that the old veterans of say 1990 on, their advice needs to be heeded. And unless those folks are listened to, and you want to listen to the fringe, uh, there's going to be problems coming up.
yeah. I still come back right now. It just appears that the party is being controlled. There's just now they're like a cult in that when it comes time to take a vote, they'll vote in lockstep. 214 or whatever the number of House members is. What was the vote the other day on the what was the thing the other day? Oh, the dudes playing high school girls sports or playing girls sports in
Right.
lockstep. You're telling me out of every member of the Senate, every Democrat, there's not one that kind of says to him or herself, "This is insane." A dude playing with a girl or a woman in sports, And yet, no, the answer is there wasn't one. And until, I don't know. And you're probably right. It always takes an individual to kind of step to the fore. But I still come back. There's got to be reason. There's got to be logic. But the party has been driven by this mentality right here for at least 10 years. And I'm going to use this as an example. I want to go on the Supreme Court and fight for women's rights. Okay. And then a month later, sitting in front of Congress, candidate for the Supreme Court, can you please define what a woman is? It depends. I don't have a clue. Okay.
Yeah.
That's not logical, Clay. That's insane. And the average person sees it at that level. So we'll see where it goes.
On the other hand, let this play itself out. Let it participate. I think
Yeah.
there will be an outcry from everybody that this is fundamentally unfair to women in women's sports. We got the Olympics coming up. There'll be the
Yeah.
trials for that, and
Yep.
NCAA. Let it play itself out. I think common sense eventually will prevail. Is there a place for trans athletes? Yeah, there should be, but not at the expense of women's sports. Uh, that's just my 2 cents.
That no, and that boxing was it last year or 2 years, whenever it was. I mean, those were guys. I don't care what their passport said. Those were dudes beating up on women. How despicable. And yet no one will come forward and say, this is insane, and put a stop to it. And I'm not blaming the trans person, because if you are a guy and you want to be a woman, or if you're a woman and you want to be a guy, I can dig the emotional distress that causes.
Mm.
But allowing someone in that situation to compete, a man to compete and win, so that doesn't solve what ails them. That is total bullshit. And until we get to a point where that is just without even discussion accepted. And I think a lot of what the Democrats are waiting for is for Trump to fail. And he's the man now. He's in charge, and as such, he is held responsible, as it should be. So we're going to watch how it unfolds over the next 3 months, 6 months, year, and we'll see what happens.
I did see some fracturing a bit in his tariff approach just this morning. I was watching the news where it looks as though General Motors, Ford, and Stellantis came and spoke to him or his team at the White House and said, "Hey, you're killing us here. You're going to ruin this whole industry." And I think when I saw this afternoon, they're going to give a 1 month exemption for the automakers with the reciprocal taxes going into effect on April the 2nd. I don't know how this plays out. I hope it turns out for the better, but like you said, we shall see.
No, and on that issue, way too often Donald Trump and other politicians are taken way too literally. I come at it from the perspective of, I look at what's kind of happened overall in this country, in various areas of this country, in the world at large over the last several decades. And I say, man, things are out of whack. We got to get back to sort of a level where we're only allow ourselves to be taken advantage of a little. There's nothing wrong. We are the leader of the world. Of the free world. And as such, we have responsibilities. But things have gotten so out of whack that we got to get that pendulum back a little more toward the middle, in my opinion. So I'm willing to see how things unfold. I kind of like the hard ass approach. And again, don't take Donald Trump too literally. Now, of course, the Democrats are, because all they want to do is look for an advantage to pound him over the head with something. But you just cited a perfect example of someone coming to him and saying, "Big fella, this is a little much. Let's can we moderate it, modulate it a little?" And he will. That's the nature of who he is.
I don't think the ego is going to allow him to have some calamitous economic thing happen to this country, and that's my opinion. That would based solely on his ego to win. Uh,
Yeah,
Gosh,
exactly.
what else has been going on? I heard you're going to tax my sugar drinks. Did you
Yeah,
hear that?
well, there is. I've heard such rumors, but I'm more interested in, and just so the audience knows, you did not go to the Himalayas.
No, no,
You went to the Caribbean. And as Jesse
Florida.
Jackson said many years ago, the issue in the Caribbean, it's caring about human beings. Now, when you were in the Caribbean, Clay Mitchell, did you care about human beings?
I only the bartender. To be honest with you, he was there. He took care of me, and that was my only care in the world. Don't run out of my
Good.
crown royal. So, off the grid, as I said, ignorance is bliss. I come back, and my goodness,
If
I know my next.
if ignorance is bliss, if ignorance is bliss, you and I are two of the happiest human beings on this earth.
That's exactly right. And my friend, I've caught up on, I read Baltimore Banner and the local uh, uh, news congregators and all that. And I've caught up on the stories, and there's still the electric bill problems. Although it's said that 82% of mail orders aren't going to have tax increases, they are going to have tax increases. There's been, uh, I think, Governor Moore said, "Hey, maybe we need to tweak this blueprint a little." Nope. Within a few minutes, he was absolutely told, "Off the boards. We're not tweaking it. We're going to continue with it." Uh, this 2%. What is it? 1 cent for every 2 ounces of sugared sodas. Everybody's going to be taxed on, uh, and the 75% delivery fees. Of course, your taxes are going up if we keep this up. And even if the budget gets a balance this year, they'll be back for more next year because no one's interested in reorganizing government and consolidating missions for agencies or any of that ilk. They're just not interested in doing it, and we're going to pay for it.
Yeah.
I, I saw different
Well,
cool places. I'd like to live in the Caribbean, to be honest with you. So, uh, you know, maybe I get off the grid and move to the
well,
Caribbean. Who
yeah,
knows?
yeah. Now, this is how I look at it, Clay. You know me. I love the United States of America
America.
bet more than anything. America more than almost anything. There are a couple of things I love
Yes.
more than America, but and I'll tell you though, I still love the state of Maryland a whole lot. So I am wishing for nothing but good things for my fellow old liners or my fellow free staters. And so, we'll see how it shakes out. And, there's a lot of, we're in a turbulent time. I have great faith and I think things are going to work out. But, I talk to people like you and other friends I have, and they tell me about their electric bills. I live in a tent. I was homeless for all those years, as you know.
Yeah.
And then I
Yeah.
moved
Right.
into a tent. And what I do is I rub two sticks together, I get a little fire going. So that's how I keep warm in the winter and stuff. So I don't have electricity or running water for that matter. So I haven't been impacted by the dramatic increases in the electric bills. But it's going to work itself out. I just have great faith, my friend.
I think after this session, Governor Moore will have to look at other ways to fund the government, look at other ways to reorganize the government, state government, and moving forward with the last couple years of his term, his first term, he's going to have to put together a team that corrals people together and makes some
Yeah.
sense out of what's going on right now. I, I I think he's still taking baby steps towards that, but I think he in Maryland is the head of the Democratic Party, and he will, I hope, bring this more back to center and to more fiscal responsibility. But I
Yeah.
think we got this session to go through. We're too far in for this session for anything else different to happen.
Well, and then from the political angle, I mean, how, the next 9 months are going to be critical because as you know, I'm getting ready to do a poll that I'll be releasing in a week or so. So I'll be
Right.
able to see how Governor Moore's approval has moved from 6 weeks ago, 2 months ago to today. But he comes out of the session. I still think, and I don't know a whole lot about the mechanics of legislation, the process, but it seems to me almost inevitable that there's going to have to be a special session after sine die, after this session ends in the beginning of April, just because I have heard not one thing yet that convinces me that they're going to be able to solve this issue in 90 days. So that's my take on it. But the governor's got to be careful because after this session, all of a sudden opinions are kind of forming in a way, and then it takes a 9 month, 10-month sort of evolution, and all of a sudden we're in 2026. And you know what happens in 2026? There are elections in Maryland.
Yes.
So
Well, Patrick, you said your poll comes out what, about a week?
yeah, it's going to come out middle of next week is what I'm aiming for.
Well, we're going to have to do a special program on that and do an analysis on it. I'm sure you'll be all over the media like your charming self always is, on the
uh
television and the radio and the
I, dude, I have a capacity to be charming about 10 minutes out of every week. And I always schedule my public appearances to coincide with that 10 minutes of charm. I am just such a fortunate fella.
well, you are a charming person, my friend. But I see by the clock on the wall, we got to wind this thing down. So I think it's time to say see you next time and goodbye, Patrick.
Goodbye, Patrick.